Welcome to another episode of Love and Reality Podcast. I am your host, Ricky Valero. On today's episode, we are going to be breaking down Batch 2 of Love is Blind UK Season 2. I'm very, very excited as we have a special guest to join us to recap the episode as well. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Ashley. How are you doing today?
I'm doing amazing. I'm excited for our special guest. Love her.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. I'm excited to have her on the show as well. Unfortunately for her, we had to, make her wait like 10 extra minutes because Ashley's setup was rough. So, you know what I
We got it together
mean?
now,
I'm
guys.
kidding. I had to give her a hard time. She always gives me a hard time, so I had to give her a hard time back.
Always.
But yeah, this batch, before we bring our guests in, this batch was pretty crazy. I think it was a kind of wide range. Obviously, one of our favorite things about this batch is the mixer. You know what I mean? So it'll be fun to talk about the mixer. And in I'd probably say one of the most dramatic mixers, except for the one with Lydia and Uche, I think, right, Ashley?
For sure. Definitely.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
this
definitely.
mixer was very dramatic.
It really, really was. And then, of course, like we do, this not surprising. We did have a breakup, and we'll dive a little bit in that. But before we dive into any of that craziness, let's introduce our amazing guests from season 1 of Love is Blind UK. Jasmine, how are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm so excited. I've been super excited for this second season. So getting to, recap it, I can't complain. I'm here for it. Let's roll.
Jasmine is a reality TV girl, so she definitely you watch, right?
Oh my God, the ultimatum, The Bachelor, anything. Listen, from a teen age girl, I've just been a reality TV whore for a very long time. I love it.
That's amazing. First of all, it's amazing to know because we're gonna have to have you back on, just talk about all these other shows that come on, not
Oh, I
just
love it.
obviously Love is Blind UK, but obviously one of the crazy thing about it is like, you've lived the experiment, right? You know what I mean? And you are a testament to this experiment working, right? But how has life been post show and navigating life with body outside of the experiment, right?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like life has become so much more exciting, fun. I feel like being out of that whole reality TV world and getting to live our normal lives, without kind of microscopes analyzing how you are on TV and us just getting to live like our normal natural lives. It's like a huge weight lifted off our shoulders. And then obviously watching season 2 back, we're like, now we can finally relax and enjoy TV, because Bobby and I, we watch Love Island. We love reality TV, and we like enjoying it, but not being at on TV for the rest of the world to kind of, have their opinion and, kind of dissect what, how we are and what we are, because evidently we know who we are, right? And I always give that kind of advice to anyone that goes on a reality TV show. People will have their opinions, and that's okay, but ultimately you know who you are, your friends know who you are, your family knows who you are, and that's all that matters.
That I totally agree. And obviously you and Bobby are proof that this experiment does work. You guys were one of my favorites my
Oh.
favorites from your season. So how's it been watching season 2, being that you lived it all, and how was it watching back?
You know what? It makes me look at it from a different lens, giving them more grace 100%. Because I mean, going into Love is Blind, I had no idea about producers, editing. I was very naive going into it, despite loving reality TV. You just take it for what it is. Like when I first watched, like, let's say for example, The Hills, I didn't know that was produced. Like, God forbid, I thought it was just happening in real life. Like, I was so just unaware of what things happen behind closed doors and behind the scenes. So now that I'm watching season 2 with that kind of lens on, having lived it, I do take some things with a pinch of salt. Let's just put it that way. And kind of give them grace in a sense, like, people act the way they do, there's always a reason why. There's probably something behind the scenes that we haven't seen. Context plays a massive role in what we see, and the lack of that, it's like I do tend to question it a lot more, and in return give them more grace.
Yeah, I think that's one of the interesting things about the show is like, because even I've been watching reality TV since I was like a young kid, and I was like,
Mhm.
these people are crazy, and you can learn to hate people or learn to like navigate people. Now, obviously, mine doesn't escape into the world of like what all these other people are doing. I don't feel the need to jump into people's comments and tell them how much they suck or anything like that.
Mhm.
People are crazy, but I kind of shifts into this batch of episodes, right? We had 5 couples going into this episode. We have a lot of different dynamics going on. One of the more interesting couples that, we have couples that are quote unquote boring, right? You know what I mean? And we all know those are, but at the same time, I enjoy them because I feel like that's the reality of this show, right? It's only boring because there's no drama, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But one of the first things I want to talk about is obviously Ashley and Billy. This dynamic to me was, in the pods, it was a red flag of the idea of her being, what's the word? I'm thinking about the word, like a stewardess, obviously what she
Yeah.
is. I mean, but like, obviously that's a big red flag, but then they went through the experiment anyway. It's been lingering. Jasmine, what are your thoughts on that? Because when you think about jobs and diving into relationships, it's such a key point of obviously we need to see each other because the first part of your experiment and if you get married is fine. But that first probably 6 months, as you imagine, living that post life has to be hard, right?
You know what? I can relate to Ashley because I used to work as cabin crew as well. So I know how challenging it can be. And one of the main reasons I left that job was my inability to make and form long-lasting relationships. So when you go back to the pods and they had discussed that, and if you think about it, Billy was ready to break up with Ashley at one point in the pods because of her job. And I guess she kind of reassured him in a way, saying, I do have an option to go 9 to 5, which is all good and well. But then when we go into the second stage of episodes, he's still discussing that with his family members, meaning he's probably not getting enough reassurance from Ashley that, you can easily say that, through your words, like, oh, I can get a ground job. But actually seeing that in reality, it's very difficult. And the difference between the UK and the US is that the US, they still carry on with their jobs, their daytime jobs, majority of them. Here in the UK, we don't. We had to take annual leave or take it off, just so that we can focus primarily on the experiment itself. So yeah, I don't think he's too convinced yet. And you can see that through his uncertainty. She's very much, I feel like Ashley is kind of divulging herself into the experiment, full throttle. I'm in love. I love you. What's the matter, right? Let's just go in it without a thought in the world. Whereas he's more logical in a sense. She's more emotional. He's more logical in a sense where he's like, you know what? No, the facts here is you are still cabin crew. Where is my reassurance that I am, going to have that life that we had pictured in the pods where you are going to back to your 9 to 5? Because it's very easy to say it, but like actions need to match up with words.
Watching this, I didn't know that that was like a quote unquote like bad job.
Mhm.
Everyone is like, oh, she's for the streets, like this is her job, and I'm like, what? Like that? What's the big deal?
I feel like when you're cabin crew, because you travel quite a lot, like you will have your hoe phase when you're cabin crew, right?
Okay,
Especially in
okay.
your early 20s, you are there to live your best life, date around the world. That's what I did anyway. I got it out my system. So I think people have this like preconceived notion, like that's what it is. But not all cabin crew are like that, Maybe she just
Yeah.
really enjoys the job. And it looks like she's really worked hard for it. So it's going to be hard for her to just let that go. That's what I'm gauging. I don't know how about you guys.
I like that actually. I didn't, and you know what? Just like sitting here listening to you talk about Billy's POV really kind of made me think about how you're right. Like maybe the actions aren't backing up the words, and that's where his hesitation comes from. Because again, like you said, I mean, we could all say things until we're blue in the face. Like, not to pick on Javon, but like I can sit here and tell you that I just sat here with the boys all night. But if everybody else saw the other point of view, you know what I mean? It's a little bit different. But like I didn't really think about that, the point of view from there. And Ashley, to me, I think one of the things about this episode that was kind of great, like the whole conversation about the grocery store, like I was totally on Ashley's side of things when it came down to Ashley. What did you think of that scene?
No, definitely. I was on Ashley's side. I was like, what's like I didn't understand it, honestly.
Mhm.
I understand it kind of, right? Because I have 2 stepsons that were in the military. Like they're very regimented, right? You know what I mean? And understanding his thing, like I need to have my body a certain way. I have to look a certain way. I have to be a certain way and stuff like that. I understand it. the one thing I will say this that I liked about Billy post scene was his ability to understand and have that conversation with Ashley. When she was like, hey, this is why I am the way I am with food, I felt like he was very receptive of that. And I feel like Billy's a little bit more receptive of feedback versus Ashley of what we've seen from her, right?
I would
Yeah, for
agree
sure.
with you. I would agree with you. I feel like with the supermarket situation, I can understand where Ashley was coming from. You know, she's been bullied in the past, and you know, I'm a mental health nurse, so like having experience in the eating disorder wards, you know, categorizing food as bad and good can develop quite an unhealthy relationship when it comes to food. So, you know, it's more so better like to say in moderation. You can have these snacks, but in moderation, you know, everything's good in moderation anyway, no matter, you know, kind of what facet of life we're kind of thinking of. But the fact that they were able to say, you know what, we've got just two different food languages, and that's what it is. But you also have to check from, you know, Billy's standpoint. He's training the military, right? He, you know, when he says practice what you preach, I can understand that. Even though I'm a foodie and I would never, you know, kind of relate to him, I could understand his standpoint. But I guess those things, I mean, if you are willing to compromise, just get two separate cupboards. I mean, we have friends that are vegan, vegetarian. Like, it doesn't mean we don't, you know, chill with them anymore. It's just you just have to do different lifestyle choices, and that's okay. Respect it and move on, you know?
And I also feel like it's super common these days.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, it is very common. And now let's talk about maybe a different couple that I feel like to me was not as strong heading into this batch, but I felt a little bit better about them. That's Kieran and Megan, right? I feel like this batch was very good for them, right? I feel like they had a lot of strong suits. Obviously, Kieran finally got what he wanted. He finally heard the words, I love you. You know what I mean? Which honestly, I'm sure, I mean, from my perspective, all of our perspectives, we want to hear it at the right time. We don't want to hear it at just because I said it, you need to say it type of scenario. But I felt like the families to me were interesting in this dynamic because, and the families are very interesting in this dynamic period because I feel like, again, I've said this before, the UK version of this show is way more mature. I just think that the people are more in tune with what they want, I guess it is, and they ask the hard questions. And I feel like the family's reactions are even more so like that because everybody's talking about the bubble. Like we always like to talk about the love is blind bubble. You're in this bubble and you don't, you know, what happens post bubble, right? You know what I mean? But Jasmine, what did you think of Kieran? And there's a big moment for me that I love about Kieran, and I don't want to talk about it yet, obviously, because it was with the conversation with Javon and stuff like that, where I felt like he really stepped up to the plate. But what did you think about these two in this batch area?
I thought, you know what, they kind of reminded me of me and Bobby. So I will get to Kieran and Megan, but like with Bobby, especially when I had an argument with Ollie in Corfu, Bobby had my back through and through. I feel like he was kind of trying to be pushed in a certain way to kind of like back his boy, as so they say. But like he was on my side 1,000,000%. And when I saw that side of him, I'm like, oh, this man's got my back. He's not just gonna throw me under the curb and like, you know, support someone that he doesn't support. He's going to back me 100%. And that's what I want in a partner. And seeing that dynamic between Kieran and Meg, where he supported his woman, even when she was crying, you know, he was the first one to stand up and like make sure that she's okay. And that dynamic between a relationship, especially a marriage going forward, you can just tell like this man is going to have her back no matter what. Wrong or right, he has your back, and he will discuss things that you may be wrong with behind closed doors. I love their communication with one another. You could even tell, like, she was talking about, you know, her mum's past relationships and how that's kind of made her a bit more guarded in regards to saying, I love you. And he was just very patient with it. He wasn't forcing it out of her. He just gave her the safe space to be able to, you know, feel those emotions and eventually tell him, which she did. So I've got really high hopes for them both. I feel like they complement each other very well.
I agree. I definitely agree. And with him doing that so early on in the relationship, like that's a total green flag. Like he has your back now. You already know it'll go further from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when they're sitting on the couch, like and that's one of the things I love, right? First off, I love that he was there, right? Because again, the conversation could have been with just Megan and Javon, right? You know what I mean? That could have been a one-on-one conversation. He's like, no, I feel the need. And I felt, and again, I'm not speaking for him. maybe production's like, hey, maybe you need to go with, or whatever that looked like. But I'm going to look at it from the point of view of what I saw. He was there with her, right? And then he didn't interrupt. He kind of just sat there. She spoke her mind. He spoke his mind. And then he felt the necessarily, not rescue, but come to the conversation, be like, hey, like, you know, you were in the photo booth. Like, hey, man, like we saw you. The photo booth was, it looked, you know, it just was such an amazing moment that, again, she could have been wrong. It didn't matter. Like, it didn't matter in that moment. He was like, no, she saw what she saw. I saw what I saw. We're together. Like, and I will say to Javon's credit there, he did apologize for making her cry, which I thought was a respectful thing that he didn't have to do. Even arguing in that moment, I felt like, hey, huge green flag from his point of view, because I love that aspect of things. But you know, Ashley, to you as well, like Kieran and Megan, like that dynamic, we talked about them last week a little bit. Like, it was such a weird dynamic, especially coming to the pods. We had the Sophie bubble there almost, you know what I mean? So Ashley, were you kind of surprised to see that transition between these two?
Yes and no. Like, I like them being together. I totally like. I wasn't too sure with the whole Sophie situation. You know, we said that last week. I was like, I'm not too sure about her. So, like, I'm definitely happy with how things worked out.
I'm still not 100% sure about Sophie, but I'm sure about these two. I feel like, you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
sure.
We'll save Sophie for later, but talk about I think not my
Our
favorite
faves.
couple. My favorite person on the show is Sarah Over. I will say that. Now, Sarah Over and Cal, I'm still on the fence even after this batch. There's some things I did like about this batch, but Sarah Over and Cal, which I saw, Jasmine, I saw your story with Sarah Over. I love, you know, she's fantastic. She seems fantastic as well.
She is, yeah.
We see the dynamic, I feel like, with Sarah Over and the family. Like, both of their families were very like hit and miss. Cal struggled mightily early in the conversation with Sarah. I was like, what is this man saying? But you can see the nerves, you could see the struggle. I also thought it was like really kind of adorable, because you see him halfway through the conversation start to come back. I do love how these conversations are like 5 seconds and their mom's like, I don't like you. And then it's like, you get the edit of like, I'm sure maybe an hour conversation turns into 5 minutes. And she's like, I support you guys now. You know what I mean? But the Sarah Over Cal dynamic, what were your thoughts on that, Jasmine?
The Sarova and Cal dynamic, I love them in the pods. And then, you know, us going into this batch of episodes, I liked their family kind of, I liked the family meets. I did really enjoy it. But my only kind of thing that makes me a bit is when his brother said, you know, you've always put yourself first, Cal. And in a marriage, you know, unfortunately, those dynamics are gonna have to change, unfortunately. How do you relearn that new behavior now? How do you learn that new behavior where you're not putting yourself first anymore? It's your wife. And the first 3 months of a marriage, 3, 4, 5, 6, the first year of a marriage, especially leading up to the show coming out, is like the most vital. You know, that's your make or break. That's your time to build your foundation. You may have built a foundation in the, you know, in the pods, but going into real life where there's jobs involved and all these things, it's like, how are you going to prioritize her? He, you know, did say to his brother, you know what, I am going to try my best. Like, I'm in love with her. Don't worry about it. Are you like just are you too kind of like blinded by the experiment that you're just saying that to just please your brother, or is this for real? That's my only worry about them. I want them to work so bad because I really do enjoy them. I love them. The fact that, you know, she's Indian, he's Pakistani, both cultures combined, it's beautiful to see. That's just my only kind of, I wish, yeah,
It's
I need some
always
more reassurance.
It's always a
Exactly.
tricky situation with the families. It's
Yeah,
like all rainbows and butterflies at the vacation, and then once you're back to, like, you know, reality and you meet the families, because I feel like the brother was like, it's not gonna work.
yeah.
Right.
Oh,
He
Like,
even
I
said,
think he
yeah.
said that.
like,
Yeah. He
yeah,
said,
he
if I ever
said
put
it's
my
not
life
gonna
on
work.
it or whatever, he was like,
Yeah,
I'm just
like
going
he
to kill
was,
myself.
yeah.
But yeah. I will say this, one thing that I was very much Sarah Over, I think almost in that same spot of like, you know, there's one thing to say whenever she's having the conversations with the cow and saying, hey, I'm going to defend you to my family, but then to do it in front of her mom, like with him sitting there, respect out the walls. You know what I mean? Like that was very respectful. And actually, to you, I think like one of the things that I really liked about the conversation they had over that dinner towards the end of the batch was he said he thought the apartment stages would be the hardest part for him because he typically wouldn't want somebody in his bubble, but he kind of said he loved that. And she loved the idea of him not mentioning those aspects of things because it would have maybe made her feel a certain way, right, Ashley?
Yeah, for sure. And I thought like him saying that was definitely like a push in the right direction because he's showing like, he can change.
I agree. I agree 100% there. Very, very hopeful for those two because again, but I will say like that little clippet of the batch for next week, I was like, oh man, Cal, don't mess this up, man. Come on, brother. Like,
which one in particular?
Yeah, well, from the clip of just
Mm-hmm.
like him saying like something about like he was just like questioning it again. Like he was just questioning the fact that like, is this? I'm like, wait a minute, where is like this? And again,
And I'm
we're
wondering
seeing
if his family is getting to him.
yes.
Mm.
The
Yeah.
brother is in his head too. You know, the brother's not a believer. You would have to think. I mean, my brother would probably be the same way. Like, hey, like, what are you doing here? Like, are you stupid?
But
Like, you
that's
know what I
what,
mean?
honestly, that's what annoys me. Like, that they're going on this show,
So some of them know though. Some of
No,
them
I
say
know
they.
you're right. No, you're right about that. But I'm just like, let them live their lives. Come on.
Yeah.
I think that was what was it? Megan's dad, I think, really took that on the chin very well. I felt like he was
Yeah.
like, at first he was like, what did you do? You're engaged, like this is your husband, like your fiance, like the first time I meet. But then he was like, look, whatever my daughter wants, if she's happy, I'm happy, type of thing. And I feel like
Yeah.
that's a dynamic that any father, as me especially too, as a father, like I would want that. You know, I mean, it's accepting there. But well, no, we're not gonna talk about them yet because that's the final couple. But Jenna and Barta. I don't know. I'm going to just start off with them two and just say they have this off feeling since week one. I haven't been very confident in these two. I'm going to let Ashley start us off here because we talked about them a little bit last week. But Ashley, Jed and Barta in this batch, what did you get from it?
No, I liked them. And I'm like, okay, this might work. But then when it got to the parents meeting and all, I don't see it going far. And I could be wrong. And if I'm wrong, I'm happy for them because I have nothing against them. But I don't know. These last batch of episodes, I was like, I don't know where this is going.
Jasmine?
We need to see more of Jed and Barta. We need to see more of Jed and Barta. I don't know them apart from him giving her flowers. What do we know about them? Do you know what I mean? There's like a little snippet saying, with Barta saying that she's going to have like her and Jed had an argument. This is going to be in the episodes to come, but they haven't really gotten. I feel like the character development in their story hasn't been character developing, and I wish I got to know them more to understand from like an outside perspective. They're amazing individually and they seem really sweet on a surface level, but I feel like fundamentally it's going to be like a Maria and Tom situation from last season where she's very much Miss Independent. I can pay my own bills, I don't need someone to look after me, and he's looking for, to be the provider, to be that safe space for the lady, to do everything for her. He wants to be that kind of guy. And that's not what Barda is looking for to me. I do love them. I love them in the pods, but there's not much that we can go off of because we haven't really seen much of them. Is it just me?
No, like, and I feel like when we do see them, that it doesn't connect well enough for you to really, not to say care. I don't know if care is a bad word, but like to really gravitate towards their journey, right? You know what I mean? What is the stakes for me to really invest myself into what we're seeing? Because again, like I feel like it's I don't know if it was like less strife, but I mean, also, I want to say to Jed, man, it's 2025, brother. Like, you know what I mean? Like, let's get with the times. Like, if your woman wants to be 100%, let her be 100%. You know what I mean? Like, it's that the balance for me has always been like, if my wife is bringing 100,000 and I'm bringing 500,000, that means we're bringing 600,000. She's bringing 500,000 and I'm bringing $20. Like, that's 500,000 and $20. You know what I mean? Like, that's the dynamic of reality of life. But, I agree with you. The stakes are just so underwhelming that this fight that's supposedly going to let us see in the final batches is, I'm like, why do I really care about their fight? Because you really haven't given me anything to develop and have those conversations to want to care about their journey. And that's one of the biggest things about maybe having too many couples or, I can't imagine. I mean, they only had 5, but I feel like there's always one couple that you feel like you get just a tiny bit of, right, Ashley?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I'm like, maybe they're considered the boring couple, and we don't know much about them. So that's why I'm like, oh, I don't think it's gonna work. But now we're gonna see this fight, and the fight is gonna be like, okay, they definitely shouldn't be together. If you're only gonna show us the bad parts, then I mean that's what you're gonna get.
And what do you guys think of like the family meets? I mean, her parents were beautiful, they were lovely, they were very friendly towards him, but did we get any kind of like future planning or any information? No, with his parents, another very pleasant experience and conversation. The only thing is the mum had issues with them not having an argument yet, so that was like the main thing. And then obviously him meeting her friend and her kind of relaying those concerns, but nothing outstanding enough for me to be like, oh my god, like, so yeah, there's not something gripping me.
Yes.
I agree.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. Like it's and I think obviously part of the dinner scene, like with his parents, the language barrier obviously is hard. You know what I mean? And I understand that, but I feel like from a point of view of watching the show, I feel like if you extend that scene, you can invest more into them, because I feel like as Americans, or as people that speak English, like we can appreciate those scenes a little bit more of the language barrier and the dynamic, because again, like, it's not going to kill us to read some subtitles if they're having conversations, to understand that, hey, Pops really has a certain feeling about this, instead of just like him just standing up and shaking his hand. Like that's all it really felt like, was a minimized version of these conversations that really could have gone a long way for them. All right. Well, it's time, guys. We've talked about 4 of the 5 couples. We're going to talk about the couple of the batch. In my opinion, a lot went down in this in this batch with Javon and Katisha, and I I don't even really know where to start with these two, outside of just like starting with the dynamic of, we were very big. Ashley, I'm going to put Ashley on the spot. She was very big on, she chose the wrong man. You know what I mean? After seeing this batch, I don't know. I do know that I feel like Damali was in love with this girl. I will say that. But Ashley, we saw the meet between the two, between Damali and Katisha. How did you feel on that meet? And then, of course, how did you feel about Javon and Katisha in this batch?
I'm still not sold on it. I don't know. I wasn't sold on, even going into the second batch of episodes. I still, in my mind, I'm like, I didn't want them together. I wanted Katisha with Damola. Like,
does Ashley sound like a robot to you, Jasmine?
Yeah.
Ashley sounds like a robot. Okay, I just want to make sure it wasn't me. You sound like a robot. But it's okay. We like robots.
How do I sound now?
Still like a robot.
Same.
All right, go ahead.
Jasmine, go ahead. So, Jasmine, to you, what were you actually? Because obviously you weren't here. What were kind of your thoughts of the Javon, Katisha, Damali thruple thing going on in the pods, and then the transition to Javon and Katisha into the kind of the real world, where it never felt like Damali ever left the conversation?
I'll be completely honest with you, and call me crazy. Damola is a very, very sweet guy, but I didn't see any chemistry between her and Damola or her and Javon. I don't see it. I don't see sparks. I don't see it. Even when Katisha met Damola, didn't see it. There was nothing there for me. There was no grip. As we've mentioned in our previous couple, there was no grip. I can't see it. I never did see it. No one can convince me otherwise. Maybe we are seeing we're seeing a very condensed version, but I do not see the chemistry between her and Demola or her and Javon. Both just not the right guys for her. Demola, very sweet. He's, Mr. Loverboy. We love him, and he deserves, rightfully so, a love that he deserves. But I just don't see that dynamic with him and Katisha. Even when they met up, there was just zero chemistry. I didn't get excited. I wasn't like, oh my goodness. It was kind of giving sibling vibes.
Yeah, for me, I was in the same boat, because when you watch them together, right? When you're watching them together, I was very like, I was excited for the meet between Katisha and Jamal, only because I was like, let me see if this is what I had made up in my head, even. You know what I mean? Because again, like she chose this one over that one, and it was like that dynamic. And I'm like, when I saw it, I was like, the way that he looked at her was like the way she looked at him. I was like, oh, that she does not like, this is not even remotely what you could even imagine what you thought it could have been. Like, this would have never worked. This might not even left the vacation, you know what I mean? Or if it did, it was forced. And now with Javon, there was just not the same thing bad about him per se, but it's like he almost like went to the next, he almost was checked out in the pods. And then it was like, oh shit, like she did pick me. So now I'm going to move on to the next part of this experiment almost, right? Ashley, are you there? Ashley might not be there. It's okay, Ashley. I don't know what happened to Ashley. Ashley's struggling.
I'm here.
Ashley,
can you hear me?
We can hear you, but if you don't move, it's fine as long as you're not delayed. But you're good. So you're Javon, Katisha, Damali. What do you got for us?
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is with my.
We can hear you perfectly fine.
Situation.
Yeah.
Hello.
We can hear you.
Okay. Okay, I didn't hear what your question was.
Just about Javon, Damali, and actually, I'm saying his name wrong, Jasmine? Yeah,
It's Damala.
Demala.
Yeah,
I heard you
and
say it like
Javon. Because they in the reunion they actually they were saying, people were saying their names wrong. It's Damala and Javon.
Javon. All right.
I've learned my lesson now. We're calling them the wrong names too.
But Ashley, any thoughts about your favorite person, Javon? I don't think so. I think we're losing her. It's all right. We'll expedite a little bit. So obviously with the conversation, obviously we see them we seen them kind of break up a little bit, and Ashley's back. Okay. All right, Ashley, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you. Yes, you're not a robot anymore. Perfect. There we go. All
perfect.
Right. Speak to us about the trio of Javon, Demala, right? I said it right. That's right. Yes. All right. Yes. And Katisha.
I really liked her. I wanted her to be with Demola. Javon just wasn't giving. And I don't understand how she didn't see it in the pod. And I'm not in the pod, so I don't know what, could have been said or how she felt in there. So I'm, nothing against her on that. But the outside looking in, I was like, girl, why? Even when they were on vacation, he just wasn't checked in.
I'm telling you, I really feel like in my head that he was so in that last moment, and obviously not batch because God knows how they actually filmed it, right? But when he went into that pods, I really felt like after Demola's reaction, he felt like he was going in there to get broken up with. And then he comes to find out, then he kind of fights back a little bit. Now he's like, hey, we're going on a trip and we're going to the next phase. And then when we see him at the mixer, he's everywhere, but with like you and Jasmine, you can even attest to this, right? With the mixer, right? Because the mixers are crazy because you're seeing some of these people you're seeing for the first time, and your significant other, if you're in a love triangle, you're seeing them for a first time. But like you always veer off. This is one of the ones that I loved about another moment that I loved about Kieran. He went and asked and said, hey, Megan, I'm going to have this. I feel like I have to have this conversation with Sophie. Again, mad respect for that. There was none of that respect level from Javon in this entire scene, right, Jasmine?
Zero. I mean, if the shoe was on the other foot and I was Katisha, I would be crashing out. Best believe, like not on my watch. Not on my watch. But I feel like with Javon, like he was checked out when she broke up with him. And that kind of continued on to the experiment. He was just there for the vibes. Even his proposal, it wasn't giving like I'm in love with you. It was just giving, okay, convenient now. You've gone back to me. Great. Like let's just continue and see where it goes for the vibes. I can relate to Katisha in a way, like my younger years, I would kind of ignore the red flags and just go for the guy that's not showing too much interest in me. It's kind of like this anxious attachment versus avoidant type relationship where both of them really just gravitate to one another. But I just feel like he is not ready to be in a marriage, and he's showing that clear as day. Whether Katisha wants to see it or not, it is clear as day that this man is just not ready, not interested, is there to just have fun. And God forbid, I mean, when Bobby and I were in the apartments, like, we'd never chill with the other couples because we were focused on our limited amount of time that we're here to get to know each other. You don't have time to be going out at a club till God knows how many o'clock and arguing with someone for an hour in a photo booth. Like, you're here to get married. Like, you're meant to spend as much time together with this person that you've met literally 2 weeks ago. So I think, you know, his motive, let's say, for example, is not to get married, and you can clearly see that. It's just a shame that it took time for Katisha to kind of realize that. It took Megan to tell her.
Yes.
I hated the fact, I know you guys remember this scene, like, this is when he was going out to meet everyone. You can clearly tell that Katisha was upset.
Yeah.
And the fact that she had to ask him when he came back, like, you didn't notice I was upset, and he's like, no. Like, he's checked out already.
Yeah.
Also, I want to know, the question that wasn't asked was apparently, because he admitted to having the argument, quote unquote, with Sophie. What were they arguing about?
That's what I'm trying to find out.
To argue about? I don't understand. Like, especially for the fight to be as long as it was. Like, we heard everything. We've heard everything, that who he was talking to, how he was talking to, who he liked, why. Like, I just want to know why he was fighting with Sophie, because what we saw at the mixer was not a fight. That was like a full-on flirt fest. You know what I mean? Like, if they were single and ready to mingle, the night would have been over. But like, I just want to know what they argued about, because like, that's literally one of the biggest conversations that I don't understand and I took away from it. I'm like, I was really hoping that we were going to get like a snippet, like maybe the cameras were there and maybe we would see like a old Cole and the Cutie scenario where they actually had cameras there. You know what I mean? But that, obviously I know they didn't, but I think it would be awesome if they did. But I don't know. I'm not surprised they broke up. I'm not really surprised that dynamic happened. Obviously, this all comes to head with Megan having the conversation, which mad respect on Megan for standing on business. She's like, that's my girl. And B, standing on business, Kieran, for telling him. Jasmine, talk to me about, obviously, something to live the experiment, watching somebody kind of find out almost not in real time, but our real time, that your man was out here doing funny business, and then B, like how that whole situation, how she even handled it, because at first it almost looked like she was going to take it on the chin. And then which was weird editing, by the way, because 1 minute it was like, oh, okay. And then the next minute she's writing a letter telling him to pound sand. I don't know what happened between then and then, but talk to us about what you thought about that scene now.
You know what? It almost looks like Katisha's almost blindsided by everything, because when she had asked him about the situation the morning after, when they were about to go meet her family, he wasn't really forthcoming in what actually happened, and the kind of ins and outs, kind of more so downplaying the whole situation. So now hearing it from another couple who are very happy and are about to walk down the aisle, in comparison to her situation, like, I feel for the girl. I really, really do. And a lot of people have been in her situation. I feel like Katisha has some kind of like people pleasing tendencies where she likes to keep the peace, and she just, even when he was speaking to her that morning before her family meets, why did you go out? Okay, whatever. Like, she quickly kind of got over it. It seems to keep the peace. And I feel like, yeah, she was kind of leaning more towards that. And then when she heard like the whole thing, she's like, hang on a minute, like, I'm looking like an idiot here. Like, something needs to stop. And I'm glad she found that strength to, finally like write that letter and leave. It's the best decision she's ever made. She should have done that weeks ago, but I'm glad she finally did it. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I totally agree, because and it is like, you block out stuff like that, right, all the time. Like, people in relationships do all the time. Like, you can sit here and tell somebody 50 times, and I feel like it took Megan's conversation to really open her eyes of like, and he didn't have any ounce of like owning anything that he did that night, right? I just went out with some friends, I hung out with X, Y, and Z, and that's what I did. You know what I mean? And I do think that almost the hilarious thing was, and this is like a typical guy thing, when Javon, what was it? Like, he FaceTime. I'm trying to remember who he FaceTime. Who did he FaceTime?
Patrick.
He FaceTimed Mr. Spleen and was like, hey, didn't this happen? And like, Patrick was like, yeah, of course he's going to be like, yeah, man, you were hanging out with me all night.
Of course, yeah.
I was kind of dying of laughter when I was watching that entire thing. And to me, it's like and then of course that takes us to the meet, right? Between Megan, Kieran, and Javon. And in those moments, again I was very like, this was probably like the first time all season. I was like, I'm on the edge of my seat. Like,
Yeah.
I am seated for this, right? And I don't know what that says about me. And I mean, as you say, yeah, you too. I don't know what that says about us, but I was so locked into this scene. I'm like, oh yeah. Like as soon as I started walking in, talk to me about your thoughts, like what was going on in your head right there too, because I'm like, I'm ready.
You know what? It was super intense. And also, it was like a classic, like, you did this. No, I didn't. It was this. You know what I mean? It was so much back and forth. It's like, when is there going to be some accountability in this conversation, or are you just wasting your time and let's just part ways and agree to disagree? Because there wasn't an agreement having there to be made. And it's kind of like Javon was kind of saying, well, you weren't watching me the whole night, so how would you know what I was doing the whole night? Kind of classic. I've had that all before. I'll be completely honest, like I've been there, done that. I've had that all before. So it's just making me think, like, what I'm leaning more towards Megan and Kieran. I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't there, but from their conversation, I am leaning more towards believing Megan and Kieran. The photo booth fiasco, I couldn't give two F's about what happened in the photo booth. The proof is in the pudding, even before the bar even occurred. The mixer itself was enough indication for me that he's not there for Katisha. He's there for vibes.
No, not at all. Because when you watch that scene, it's like only thing that made it really bad was the fact that how he acted at the mixer. If he doesn't act that way in the mixer, then maybe it's more of a 50-50 conversation about who we're trying to believe. But if we're going based off what we saw at the mixer, my man, you weren't innocent. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was pretty crazy to me.
Double whammy, isn't it? Double whammy.
Yes. Yeah, all in the same batch for the guy. And again, I guess that would be like one of my, like, did you really want to come on the show to find love? Like, that's one of the biggest questions I have for the guy. It's like, because it almost feels like, and there's nothing wrong with being in your fuckboy phase. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to be in your F-boy phase, be your F-boy phase, but just own wanting to be in your F-boy phase. Because again, I mean, look, don't get me wrong, Sophie's a beautiful woman. Like, everybody, but he was like one of the only ones, like, every girl walked in the thing, he was like,
Cheshire cat. I'm not even joking. But let me play devil's advocate here. Do you think he was ready to get married, but Katisha's just the wrong girl for him? I'm just wondering if he was to get engaged to someone that he, let's be honest, it doesn't seem like he likes her, but someone that he was truly like kind of head over heels for, would that make him act differently? I don't know.
Right. Maybe if he got engaged to Sophie, would he feel a certain, you know what I mean? I think in my head as well, I think maybe, and I don't want to say this like the wrong, maybe he's not as attracted to Katisha, maybe, you know what I mean? I don't know. But he also like apparently had like a really strong connection with I would love to hear more about his story, about some of his other connections, because again, I feel like he was almost forced into an engagement. I hate to say it like that, but how it's edited, right? It's almost like he's forced into this engagement because, again, we're all thinking that he's going to, like, Demela and Katisha are moving on to the next phase. And then it's like, surprise, no, they're not. Ashley.
I'm here.
Awesome. Conversation. We're talking about the breakup. We're talking about the explosive scene between
So
Kieran
you know
and
what
Megan.
I was just thinking about? I was thinking about like at the mixer. I don't know if you guys noticed how Javon and Anua, is that her name?
Anu, yeah.
I know they had a little. I feel like they had a little bit of chemistry.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, oh, I would have liked to see that.
Me too. Me too.
And I think because again, when we hear like they had the conversation at this bar too, right? Because he apparently was talking to all the girls, including Anu here. I mean, did they have a connection in the pod, right? You know what I mean? Because obviously everybody has like a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4, whatever. You'll listen your folks out. So it's like we know that for years of having conversations, but like we were so caught up with Captain Spleen that we really didn't get any more of the conversations with everybody else. Jasmine, that's a perfect question for you. Obviously, Patrick has become, quite the meme-worthy character out of the show. But What were your thoughts on the Patrick and Anu? Because I love Anu. I think she's awesome. I really
I think
do.
she's beautiful. She's
Right.
great.
I just was kind of like, I'm like, man, you fumbled this one big time.
You know what I will say, having spoken to Anu like behind the scenes, lack of context. You know, there was a lot of conversations that they had for her to elicit that kind of reaction. And, you know, I think from an outside perspective, her, you know, going off on him, talking about his scarf, his spleen, and whatever the case may be, you need to understand, right? No one is going to act a certain way for no reason. There's always a reason why people act this way on camera. It's not coming from thin air. So you know, having spoken to her, you know, she did say, and she did say on the show as well, you know, you did promise me, you know, we were going to meet your family, we were going to travel together. So they did go very kind of late on in their relationship, probably maybe like the last few days of the pods. So if you think about it that way, like that was building up to an engagement. He even said in the pods, you know, next day, you know, I'm thinking about possibly getting engaged to you. So, you know, those kind of things, you hold on to those words. So there's a reason why, you know, this kind of reaction, you know, was, you know, done by Anu, because well, wouldn't you? If something was put to you in a silver platter, and you know you kind of brushed off all your other connections and just focused on this one, and then at the last hurdle, he's like, no. How would
I
you
felt,
feel?
yeah, I definitely felt bad for her because I feel like she let her guard down.
Yeah.
And as soon as she let her guard down, it was like, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't happening. So, like, I don't blame her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't, because again, when we talked about it during the pod part, it's like I didn't love that he like put her on the spot, sing me a song, you know what I mean? But then she understood maybe how important that meant to him. So then she's like, you know what, I'm gonna write a song for you. And he's like, well, save that song for somebody. I was like, I was so like, man, I just yeah. And again, you know, she'll sing that song for the right person along the way. All right, so now obviously for our favorite part of the episode, folks, we are basing these off of what we saw in this batch, right? So we're gonna go around the horn. We've got 4 couples remaining, obviously, with Katisha and Javon broken up now. I'm gonna go around the horn. Jasmine, I'm gonna start with you with the first couple here. Ashley and Billy, what do we think is going to happen? Will these two get married?
I don't think they'll get married. I think Ashley will say yes and Billy will say no. From what I can see from the edit, that's my prediction.
Ashley.
I was going to say the exact same thing. I think, yeah, I do think Billy's going to say no.
I am going a little bit different. I do agree with it, but I feel like they're going to ask Ashley and she's going to put Billy on the spot and say,
Oh.
I need you to, are you going to
Oh.
say yes? You know what I mean? Like, because I feel like she's 100% yes, but I feel like she doesn't want to, there's an embarrassment of saying yes and your partner, you know, the person you're with saying no. And I'm trying to remember who did, I think it was Micah. I think.
Micah.
Micah,
Yeah.
yeah, Micah did that.
Yep, with
With
Paul. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Ashley, I'm gonna put you on the spot this time. Sarova
Okay.
and Cal.
I hope they get married.
Mm-hmm.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. I really hope they get married. Side note, I love the way that Cal was so upset with the whole Katisha and Javon situation. He was not happy with like how things went down. I was like, he's riding for his boy. But yeah, no, I hope they get married.
Jasmine.
Oh, for Sarova and Cal?
Yes.
I will. I want to say yes, and I feel like Sarova's a ride or die.
Yeah.
Would that carry them through? Possibly. So, you know what? For positivity's sake, let's go for yes.
And I'll go for negativity's sake. So they won't get it married. I'm sorry. I don't know. There's just something here that I feel like is just not connecting with me on the Cal standpoint. I can't get his brother out of my head, like with that dynamic, and it's really hard for me. I'm going to start with Kieran and Megan. I would be flabbergasted if both of these two don't say yes. I love their dynamic. I feel like from the pods, I was negative Nancy to the idea of them. Then we moved to this batch of episodes. How they handled the Javon and Katisha situation made me just really root for them big time. And then I'm gun ho for Megan and Kieran. What about you, Jasmine?
I am yes all the way. I've been yes since they were in the pods. Yeah, I will crash out if they both say no. There's no reason from what we've seen, there's no reason for them to say no. So they are my hope this season. They are my like hell yes.
And it's crazy. I feel like there's always like a couple from a season that when you watch this show, you're really like they need to make it. They're my Brett Brown and Tiffany.
Tiffany, yeah.
Tiffany couple of this season they're my all-time favorite couple. So I feel like they're this version of that this season. So I'm very, very excited for these two. We'll get Ashley back in a second. But all right, our final couple. I'm gonna let you kick it off, Jasmine, for Jed and Barta.
It's giving no. It's giving no. We've mentioned it. I just don't think there is enough for them to say yes. Possibly in the future, but I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it to be strong enough to say yes.
I agree. I haven't, again, we talked a little bit about how we haven't really seen their journey a whole lot and nothing about what we've seen has given, I think, us confidence to say these two are going to say yes. And I think that's how we can best put it there. Obviously, we have the final two final two episodes this Wednesday. We have the wedding episode that I'm very, very excited about. We have Ashley hopefully back. She's going to come. All right. No, she's not back. All right. And then, of course, we have the reunion right around the corner, which is Sunday. Jasmine, I'm going to put you in a slight spot without spoilers. You don't have to say a single thing. What can audiences expect without spoilers from this reunion?
I'm trying to go for a word that is not too telling. One word is tea.
Boom. I like it. That's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah. That's perfect. Obviously, Jasmine, you are a gem. We appreciate you coming on the show. Sorry for a little bit of technical difficulties here,
worries.
Obviously. But I mean, I can't wait to have you back on and talk more. Yeah, like this was awesome. You know what I mean? This was awesome, and we appreciate you coming on. So we really, really hope to have you back on again in the near future. Ashley's back as well. But
right.
But she sounds weird, but we'll be back next week.
See you. Thank you for having me.